There's something uniquely chilling about winter nights. The long shadows, the biting cold, and the eerie stillness create the perfect atmosphere for tales of terror. Gather around, and let me tell you 3 true horror stories that will make you shiver long after the fire has died down. Story 1. The Ice Fisherman's Revenge. In the heart of Minnesota, where the winters are brutally cold, there lived an avid ice fisherman named Carl. Carl was known in his small town for 2 things: his skill at ice fishing and his terrible temper. One particularly harsh winter, Carl went out on the frozen lake earlier than usual. The ice was thin, and despite warnings from his friends and family, Carl insisted he knew what he was doing. That morning, the sun barely peeked over the horizon when Carl trudged out onto the lake, auger in hand. Hours passed without a single catch. Frustrated, he moved to a more remote part of the lake. As he drilled his new hole, the ice beneath him gave way. Carl plunged into the frigid water, disappearing beneath the surface. Despite a frantic search, his body was never recovered. Years went by, and Carl's story turned into a cautionary tale for young fishermen. However, strange things began to happen around the lake. People reported hearing anguished cries coming from the ice, especially on the coldest, darkest nights. One night, a group of teenagers decided to investigate these eerie sounds. Armed with flashlights and nerves of steel, they ventured onto the lake. As they approached the spot where Carl was last seen, the ice started to crack. Panicking, they turned to flee, but it was too late. One of them, Mike, fell through a thin patch of ice. His friends managed to pull him out, but Mike was in shock, mumbling incoherently about a face he saw beneath the ice, an angry, vengeful face that looked just like Carl's. After that night, the local authorities cordoned off that part of the lake, deeming it too dangerous. But some say that on the coldest December nights, if you stand quietly on the shore, you can still hear Carl's anguished cries echoing across the ice, forever seeking revenge for his untimely demise. Story 2. The Phantom Hitchhiker. The roads in the remote parts of Alaska are treacherous, especially in winter. Snowstorms can come out of nowhere, and the temperature can plummet in an instant. One evening, a truck driver named Dave was making his way along a desolate stretch of highway when he saw a figure standing by the roadside, thumb outstretched. Against his better judgment, Dave pulled over. The hitchhiker was a young woman, shivering in a thin jacket. She thanked Dave profusely as she climbed into the truck, explaining that her car had broken down miles back and she'd been walking for hours. She was headed to a small town further down the road, so Dave agreed to take her as far as he was going. As they drove, they made small talk. The woman, who introduced herself as Emily, seemed nervous, constantly glancing out the window. Dave tried to put her at ease, but she remained on edge. After a while, she fell silent, staring straight ahead. When Dave glanced over, he noticed that her breath was no longer fogging up the window. Panicking, Dave pulled over and tried to wake Emily, but she was ice cold. He felt for a pulse, but there was none. Frantic, he grabbed his phone to call for help, but when he turned back, Emily's body was gone. Only her thin jacket remained, draped over the passenger seat. Shaken, Dave drove to the nearest town and reported the incident. The local sheriff listened to his story with a grim expression. He explained that Emily had been a local girl who died in a car accident on that very stretch of road years ago. Every winter, there were reports of her ghost hitchhiking, trying to find her way home. Dave was just the latest in a long line of drivers who had encountered her. To this day, truckers and travelers in Alaska know to be wary of picking up hitchhikers on snowy nights. The legend of Emily, the phantom hitchhiker, serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking on those icy roads. Story 3. The Haunting of the Old Cabin. In the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, there stands an old, abandoned cabin. Local legend has it that the cabin is cursed. Decades ago, it was owned by a recluse named Samuel, who disappeared one winter, never to be seen again. Some say he was a victim of foul play, while others believe he was driven mad by the isolation. A group of friends, intrigued by the stories, decided to spend a weekend at the cabin one December. They wanted to see if there was any truth to the legends. Armed with camping gear, food supplies, and a healthy dose of skepticism, they made their way through the snow-covered forest. The cabin was exactly as described, weathered and eerie. Inside, they found old furniture, dusty and covered in cobwebs. As night fell, the temperature dropped, and they gathered around the fireplace, telling ghost stories to pass the time. Around midnight, strange things began to happen. The temperature in the cabin plummeted, and an unearthly howl echoed through the forest. One of the friends, Jake, went outside to investigate. Moments later, the others heard him scream. They rushed out to find Jake standing rigid, staring into the darkness. When they shook him out of his trance, he whispered about seeing a ghostly figure with glowing eyes watching him from the trees. They retreated inside, but the haunting continued. Doors slammed shut on their own, and ghostly whispers filled the air. The friends decided to leave at first light, but the night seemed endless. At one point, they found a message scrawled in the frost on the window: "Leave now." Terrified, they fled the cabin as soon as dawn broke. When they reached the nearest town, they shared their experience with the locals. An elderly man who remembered Samuel confirmed the cabin's dark history. Samuel had been a cruel man, hated by the townspeople, and his spirit was said to haunt the cabin, driving away anyone who dared to stay. The friends never returned to the cabin, but the story of their harrowing night spread. Now, no one ventures near the old cabin, especially in winter. The haunting of Samuel serves as a chilling warning to those who might think of exploring the cursed place. These 3 stories are a testament to the eerie and unexplainable events that can occur on cold December nights. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying the spine-tingling fear that these tales inspire. So, next time you're sitting by the fire on a winter's night, remember these stories and keep an eye on the shadows. You never know what might be lurking just out of sight.